Hello, good people. I hope you're doing quite well. So, today I want us to talk about this book I'm writing. It's called Inside the Quadrant, The Mix to Success. What do you think is actually the equilibrium point where we have a maximum or optimum chance to become successful? So, that is the essence of this book. But before we go deep into analyzing this, I want to take this opportunity to kindly remind you to be part of our community. On our YouTube channel, I am Toroitich Yegon. This applies also to the other social media. We have Toroitich Yegon as my official page at Facebook, and Yegon as well TikTok and all the other avenues. So welcome. I'd like you to support the community by leaving that like, subscribing, and most importantly, leaving a comment so that you can have a sustaining conversation. Thank you so much, guys. You have been doing amazing job. So let's have a conversation about this book. So the main theme of the book is we are harnessing decision, effort, luck, and risk for your personal leadership and entrepreneurial excellence. So something you need to notice, I wrote this book for people who like intelligence, for people who like to push themselves to the next level. They think, they are pragmatic, they want to analyze what other people have been doing so that they can be successful. So when you look at this side, the cover is divided into the four vital forces, but you see it has been divided into two. So this one is a dummy cover. Whatever you're seeing there is zone of our control. So we have two vital forces which we can actually be able to control. That is decision and effort. Then down here we have two other forces which we may not be able to control, but you can actually have it in our circle of concern, and that is luck and risk. So let me take you through, then we discuss and you tell me, where do you normally kwama? So the book takes you through 5 chapters. That's essentially decision, which is the cornerstone of leadership. And I have analyzed some very important items. That is the power of that single decision. Actually, you realize that sometimes you make one decision and that is enough to make a rippling effect and change your life. I want you to take a chance and think, when was this day you made a decision which actually changed everything in the world? I'll show you when we are going to look inside the book. The second thing is understanding decision making as a process. Because decision is the cornerstone of our leadership, it is a transformational pivot point. So you need to make serious decisions as a science. Then decision making science. This is where do logic interact with intuition. Then the practical tools and frameworks for better decisions. Intuition versus information. Where do you get the balance? And then the cost of indecision. How many of us have worked under people who don't decide very fast? Or in our line of duty, we have had an instance of indecision. Then we talk about the effort, the power of showing up, discipline, beyond motivation, beyond business. So when I coined this term, it's actually existing. Many of us, we are busy, but when we are asked at the end of the day, what were you doing? You cannot be able to account. Then we talked about compounding your gains, then framework and tools to reinforce your effort, building a culture of effort, and most importantly, sharpen the saw. So that is a concept borrowed from 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. It talks about resting. So something important from the effort is sometimes most of us don't want to show up. Most of us don't want to take any effort to success because we feel whatever we are doing is not impactful. And that is why I talked about beyond business, what needs to be done to ensure that you're seeing a productive effort. Then number 2 is building the culture of effort. So I talked about how you can make it better. Framework and tools will help you to synthesize and see how you can make your effort more meaningful. And then sharpening the saw is there intentionally because you need to input the capacity to rest into your system. Then luck. So seizing serendipity and creating opportunity. So I remember when we were told wishing you luck. What did that actually mean? Understanding luck. Do not be naive. You should know your limits. Recognize opportunities in disguise. Preparing for luck. Turning setbacks into springboards. Then we talked about risk. That is the boldness to step forward. Cultivating a risk-ready mindset. We talk about the margin of safety, mastering the odds and uncertainty of life, embracing the gray area, the balance, the heart of measured daring, because I don't want you to be a fool. Then strategic boldness. We talked about risk as a currency of innovation, risk mitigation. It's not as enough to opt, you need to prepare. Then the frameworks for assessing your risk, then personal risk when growth feels dangerous. And finally, we talk about chapter 5, which tries to tell us now we need to harmonize these forces. So in chapter 5, we talk about the convergence, the synergy of the quadrant forces, the quadrant as a band, the quadrant alignment model, avoiding common pitfalls, and then from idea to impact. So that one is a call to action. Good. So one question is, what does it really take to succeed? So we live in a world of following with opportunities and challenges. So as you can read, everyday classroom, in those boardrooms, in those farms, we are thinking about going to succeed. That is a basic tenet. And that is why I asked you, what does it really take to succeed? So that is a challenge. You can always pause and read for yourself. But that is how I was inspired to write about Inside the Quadrant. This is how the four forces are working. So you need the clarity to know what you want and the courage to choose your path. You need the effort, that is the consistency and discipline to keep moving, even when progress feels slow. And then you need luck, that is the timing, opportunity, and connections that often shows up when you least expect it. You have the risk. So that is how the book is formed. I'll just pinpoint this place so that I don't overdo it. Decision gives you direction, effort will give you motion, risk gives you momentum, and luck gives you the lift. So I want to go to two sections. One is how one decision can have a rippling effect. Then I'll also move you very fast to what are some of the common pitfalls. Let us read this, the rippling effect of one decision. So one decision can change everything. In history, business, and personal stories, we have very many examples of defining moments. So you can see that is Rosa Parks. For those of us who know Rosa Parks, she is one of those main people, Kina Martin Luther King. She actually resisted to give out her chair, a seat, in one day in a bus. And that is how she ended up being called the mother of the civil rights movement. Jeff Bezos, for those of us who know him, this is the guy behind Amazon. He made a decision. Satya Nadella. Most of us don't know him, but you know the company, Microsoft. So this guy, the decision which made a very big change is moving from a know-it-all culture to a learn-it-all mindset. That actually changed. So let me read something for you. Nadella believed a know-it-all mindset leads to stagnation, internal competition, and an aversion to risk and failure. While a learn-it-all mindset encouraged employees to take risk, learn from mistakes, and constantly seek new knowledge. Let's see our two leaders, that is Daniel Arap Moi and Nelson Mandela. So actually we are currently enjoying free primary education, but did you know that this is something which was started way back in 1978? So Daniel Arap Moi set up the motion to this policy. It faced a lot of challenges, but that was a stepping point. That is why we are today. I also featured Nelson Mandela. This guy was in prison for 27 years. And when he came out, he chose reconciliation over revenge. He did not just make a political choice, he made a moral one that redefines South Africa's future. Then my favorite, that is Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs is a very good person when you talk about Apple. So this guy founded a company called Apple, and the board ousted him. So imagine you're founding your company, and then along the way, people fire you out of your company. But he came back, and that is the best thing we talk about. And from that decision to come back, he came and streamlined a lot of things through strategic decision making. And that is how we had iPhone, iMac, iPod, and all those. Then we have our very good guy, Moses Apple, the reluctant leader in the Bible, chose to obey God's call and return to Egypt to confront Pharaoh. It was a single act of courage that liberated an entire nation. The 1 year turned a shepherd into a deliverer and transformed the course of history for Israel. So here we have an opportunity to look at the common pitfalls. So we say even harmony can drift out of tune. So sometimes we have a framework deviation. And what happens is when you miss out on one thing, you can tilt to one force and it begins to dominate the rest. So I featured out in the Lean Startup, that Eric Rice. So actually I have that book here. It's my current read. It's the Lean Startup by Eric Rice. So in the Lean Startup, Eric Rice reminds us that the success is rarely the results of one grand idea executed perfectly, but of constant learning, testing, and recalibration. Startups fail not because they lack vision, but because they stop listening to feedback, to data, and to the quiet signals that something needs adjusting. The most successful innovators build what Rice calls a build, measure, and learn strategy. One day I'll feature that book. A discipline of alignment that ensures every step remains connected to purpose. So for us, the essence is ensure you have a control loop where you take back feedback, you adjust as you move forward. So I'll show you a concept here, which is very funny. This is associated to overreliance in one force. So one is somebody is good in one particular force, but unfortunately, he or she doesn't perform in the other force. So if you are an overthinker, you live in someday, forever planning but never moving. That is, decision without effort is elegant inertia. Then we have the workaholic, who grinds tirelessly yet forgets direction. They confuse business with purpose. And then we have the gambler, who takes bold risk without calculation, bravery without balance. Then you, the dreamer, who waits for luck to intervene but builds no bridge for opportunity to cross. Then we have number 2, the unbalanced approach to risk. So this one I borrowed something from engineering. So writing about this section reminds me of my engineering world. Unbalanced systems are the trickiest, even in the engineering world. In engineering, we talk about unbalanced systems, whether in electrical, mechanical, or structural. They introduce instability, inefficiency, and unpredictable behavior. They challenge both design and maintenance teams. For instance, in electrical systems, phase imbalance causes overheating and power loss. In mechanical systems, imbalances to vibration, wear, and eventual failure. In structural systems, unequal load distribution in your house can actually cause one wall to deform or even collapse. Yet, what makes them fascinating is that engineers often learn the most from unbalanced systems. They force one to think dynamically about compensation, control, and continuous correction. So, Ivo, risk is not always financial. You need to do a balance of the system. So let's move to the other avenue. So this is a continuation. You can always pause at your own time. And importantly, skipping reflection, the reframing moments. There is a great power in renewal. So the previous section in effort was anchored in a principle widely shared, that is the 7 habits of highly effective people. This is where we talked about sharpening the saw and re-strategizing. In the rush to do more, reflection is often the first thing sacrificed. Yet reflection is the very rhythm keeper of success. And we have a conversation in Ecclesiastes, that is, to everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. And that is done also in Luke Suppose one of you wants to build a tower. Will he not first sit down and estimate the cost to see if he has enough to complete? So here reflection precedes action. It is a divine design principle. Evaluate before you engage. So these are important questions you need to ask yourself there. Am I still pursuing what truly matters? Is my effort aligned with my highest priorities? Have I learned from my last setback or merely moved past it? Then we have the momentum marriage. This one, you look like you are making effort, you are making progress, but you are not actually moving. It is just an illusion. Then that is to sum up. The greatest danger is not in failing, but in drifting away from purpose, the balance, and from awareness. Within the quadrant mindset, you are called to remain present, to live with rhythm, reflection, and recalibration. Life is not a race to control every outcome. It's a journey of constant tuning. You do not need to manage every variable, but to stay aware enough to retune when one note grows too loud or too faint. Stay awake at your own evolution. So thank you guys. That is just a small overview of Inside the Quadrant. Ensure that when you read the book, it helps you to make clear, courageous decisions and with confidence. Apply intentional effort that compounds over time. Recognize and stay ready for moments when luck appears. You take that bold, calculated risk to unlock progress. So, as always, that's my profile. And those are the other books we have had a conversation or I have written about. So, thank you for joining me. If you have been with me until this moment, you are an amazing person. So, remember to be part of the community. Click that subscribe button and stay safe until next time. Thank you so much.